Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Good afternoon and welcome to a 2-minute late talking politics. I am Robert Press, your host. As you can see, I'm an official journalist with the city of New York. Today, I guess we had a little lateness because today is opening day at Yankee Stadium. So, let me introduce my co-host, Mr. Anthony RIVIECCIO. He has a lot of different titles he's going to tell you, and he's got a surprise for us later on the show, I hear. Anthony.
Robert, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO. As Robert has indicated, my co-host, I have several lives. My first life, my predominant life, is I am currently an income tax and financial advisor. That's pulling out his hair because there's only less than 2 weeks left to income tax season. Tip of the day, everybody asks for an extension because if you're not ready by now, you won't be ready at all. My second life is that I'm an adjunct professor of personal finance at Parrot Cleveland College, as well as the Brown College of Public and Private University here in New York City. And my third life is I am the current founder of a wonderful organization here in New York.
Anthony, we're losing you. You might have to take off your mask so we can hear you. I don't think we can hear you through the mask.
No, I think we have a bad connection because I can barely hear you too.
Okay, well, let's get into our normal show anyway, and hopefully our producer can correct this bad connection that you have.
I don't know if he can. So what I'm going to do is...
Why don't you sign off and come back on? Okay, so, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off, since we have a state budget. Once Anthony comes back, we'll go to our normal routine. Since we have a state budget, the mayor has made a statement, and let me read the mayor's statement on the state budget. The details of the budget deal are still emerging, but it is clear that many of my top priorities and key elements of my people's plan for New York will be included. This means millions will go directly into the pockets of working-class New Yorkers through an enhanced earned income tax credit. There will be historic funding for families to pay for childcare, and tax incentives will make a meaningful difference for the people in our city who need it the most. While I commend the legislature and governor for making some progress on public safety, it is also evident that a good deal more work needs to be done on the issue, as well as on mayoral accountability, housing, and other city priorities in the ongoing legislative session, which is only half over. We will review the budget fully and continue to advocate on behalf of nearly 1 million students who are still suffering from disruption of the pandemic, the thousands of New Yorkers who lack access to affordable and stable housing, and the countless everyday New Yorkers who want and deserve to live in a safer city. Now, do we have you back, Anthony?
I'm here.
Okay. Let's get to our normal topics. In case you missed it, Anthony, I read what our mayor said about the state budget. And let's also welcome our guest today, Mr. Jose Padilla. So, Mr. Padilla, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, Robert, let me ask you a question. And Jose, first and foremost, I hope you're well. Give me 1 second. Why are we talking about the state budget now?
Why? Because you had to come back on, so I had to fill the airtime.
Well, the airtime should have been filled with national politics.
Well, let's go into that then. Okay, what do we normally start off with the Ukraine war, world politics.
Well, where do you want to start, Robert? You tell me where you want to start. Anthony, why don't we start by introducing our guests, since you already went to that level. So, Jose, come back on. Nice to see you. Introduce yourself.
I'm here, gentlemen, at your request. Thank you for having me on the program. My name is Jose Padilla Jr., longtime community activist and former candidate for various state legislative offices, and also a former community board member here in the Bronx, and a long-time resident of the Bronx.
And Mr.
Jose, you forgot one thing. You forgot one very important thing. I'm glad you came at our request, and thank you for coming. But where's the pizza?
I'll tell you what. Listen, had I had enough time, I would have stopped by to one of the pastry shops. I would have given you a nice digital pastry. How's that? You're welcome to
You tell
come
my
down.
darling I said hello over there on Arthur Avenue.
Mr. Padilla is known as the mayor of Belmont. Jose, we're going to have to ask you to come off and then come back.
Robert, if you want to stay on state politics since you brought it up, that's fine.
I want to do our normal thing, Anthony. Let's start with the Ukraine war. Hopefully, Jose, he was choppy a little bit like you were. If he comes back on, he'll be better. Okay.
Jose, try leaving the studio and come back on. You'll get a reconnection.
Okay, so let's go into the Ukraine war. Now, it's been now a month, almost, 45 days. We're hearing about the atrocities that the Russians are doing. It's been documented on video. Anthony, what do you have to say about the Ukraine war? When is it going to end, or will it end?
I'm not sure how to answer it in that broad of a question. Do I think it will end? Eventually. How do I think it will end? I don't think too good. You know, I was thinking about it last night, anticipating this type of question. And to be very frank with you, let me answer the question by asking you a question. 30, 40 years ago, when we were much younger, right? And we had what were called, you know, bomb, what was it? You know, like bomb training, you know, where if the U.S. ever got hit with a bomb, what were we supposed to do?
You're talking Cold War training, Anthony, correct?
No, I'm talking right after Cold War training. Right after Cold War training, when we were told we might get hit with nuclear arsenals in the 60s, the training was to go find a bunker.
Right. You would go in the basement of your apartment building, which would be so supposedly secure.
And what was supposed to be in that bunker?
You had supplies in there that would hold you for a couple of days. You also had a radiation detector in case the bomb dropped near you, and any other things that you had.
So you don't think that that President Putin wasn't economically ready? You know, economic sanctions are wonderful unless I already have a bankroll already saved. So, you know, what good are the economic sanctions if I got a bunker full of money?
Or if you can just keep selling your oil through other, you know, countries and take the money.
Which is now also a U.S. Problem. The United States has recognized that other countries might condemn Russia from a human rights violation, but at the end of the day, we're all capitalists.
Right. So, I mean, what can we look for then? I mean, is it just going to continue like this? We see that Russian tanks are empty, that they're dead Ukrainians, they're massacring these people. I mean, what can we look forward to? It reminds me of the March on Moscow by the Germans during World War II. You know, seeing that in the movies that they had their empty tanks and they were walking back to Germany. Is this what's happening with the Ukraine war? The Russians walking back to Russia?
I don't know if they're going to walk back to Russia unless they're planning on engaging with the younger Russians with a brand new Russian revolution. I would believe the older Russians are probably very scared of President Putin. So they will march to their orders, albeit it's, of course, not the orders they thought they were marching to. They thought they were marching to a 2-3 day war. And now they're, of course, finding out they're marching to people that are ready to chop their head off, too.
And what about President Biden saying that the Russian people should take out Putin? Is he putting himself in jeopardy that the Russians might take him out?
You know, I'm going to answer that in two ways, and I'm sure the second way won't be a popular one. Did President Biden give the politically correct response when he made that statement and then try to take it back? I guess politically that was the right thing to do. you know, on the other side of the coin, and this is why, of course, people like Anthony RIVIECCIO will never run for office, but people like Ninja Tony might, which will be our surprise later on in the show. But the reason why people like Anthony RIVIECCIO will never run for office is because I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is that I think he did the absolute correct thing. But the sad part is that you can't be Clint Eastwood and not have bullets.
Correct. I mean, can you imagine the next in line would be Kamala Harris? And if for any godsaken reason that both were taken out, Nancy Pelosi would be our president.
Well, I'm not sure if that's true either, because at the current rates that we're looking at, if it was Kamala Harris, well, then it would really be Barack Obama. If it was Miss Pelosi, well, at this current stage, it could be Miss Pelosi's doctor, right? Because she currently has COVID. So, you know, who's going to be president? You want me to be the president? I'd love to be the president.
Wait a minute. You said Nancy Pelosi has COVID?
Oh, yes.
I mean, there were a couple other people who got COVID from the White House meeting where former President Obama was.
It wasn't a meeting, Robert. It was the Obama-Rama party.
Okay.
And the one that I'm sure does not have COVID in that party, the one I'm almost willing to bet every dollar on, is the President Joe Biden. Because notice that party, nobody was with Joe. Right. Everybody was with President.
Right. For some reason, Obama. Joe didn't have his hands on any woman.
The only hands he had was on former President Obama, trying to get him to shut up because obviously he was being overstayed. And when he realized that he couldn't do it, he decided to, I guess, gracefully walk away. His only problem was that as he was walking away, he didn't keep his head up. He kept it down, so he looked like a sulking 15-year-old boy.
Right, and there was a bad joke where he called Joe Biden Vice President Biden, and then said, "Oh, I mean President Biden." It was a joke. But he
didn't say President. Right. What he said, right? I think you got to clear that up a little bit. He made a joke calling the president Vice President. And then he immediately turned around and said to everyone, it was a joke. And to be honest with you, I thought it was an appropriate joke. Because, I mean, you know, he was his vice president for many years. So, you know.
Well, while we're on the subject of Joe Biden, why don't you take us to Bidenomics, and hopefully the producer will give you the full screen.
He'll give me the full screen.
Yes, I have something that I have to do.
Bidenomics. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we'll go into Bidenomics in more detail on our show, Financial Focus University, seen every Friday at 5 p.m. Short story for the week. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not having a good week. The general markets, as I'm sure you're familiar, are going down every day. The yield curve, which now is being called the inverted yield curve, and you'll see a picture of that on our show later this afternoon, keeps getting inverted. And again, economists, and I'm one of them, agree that the more inverted it gets, the more dangerous it is for our U.S. economy. Is that trickling down to savings rates in the banks? No, not at all. So who's making the money? The banks are making the money, right? So so from a Bidenomics point of view, I really think we're in a very dangerous situation. You know, we have a situation where economic indicators are showing our economy is growing. The war is putting us in a sideways type of tilt. Inflation has gotten out of control. From the Bidenomics point of view, which we'll again discuss later on our show, all of these factors are now bringing us to, Robert, I'm sad to tell you, your Bob Press Index week is not going to be a good week.
Oh, well, I'm not going to touch it till later in the year anyway. So
that's you know, as we always indicate with your index, you say you're all in for the long-term investment. So this week, I'm glad it's long-term because this week is not a good week.
Yeah, well, no, I'll be there for the next president and the president after him or her. Notice I said him
You're going to be
or
there
her.
for the next 8 to 10 years then.
Yes.
When you say there, you're going to be in the market.
Right.
Well, everybody should be in the markets, Bob. I mean, second economic.
By the way, Anthony, didn't you just buy a stock recently, a certain stock? How is that doing today?
I haven't checked on it as of today, but from the moment of its purchase, with some options trading behind it, we're doing okay.
Okay, why don't you tell us what that stock was?
Well, myself and a group of investors decided to look at WWE stock. As some of our audience might know, I'm a 40-year wrestling fan, a former wrestling journalist. We had Rich Mancuso on our show, who's also very well known in wrestling circles, a couple of weeks ago to talk about WrestleMania. I won't go into exact dollars, but I will say, and I'll quote Vince McMahon, who said this was, quote, the most profitable WrestleMania they've ever had. And there are some obvious reasons for that, and some not so obvious reasons for that. And then, of course, it's being widely discussed that the McMahons as a family may not, from a long-term venture, be involved with wrestling any longer. From a wrestling fan's point of view, I'm sure that's going to be very disheartening because the McMahon family has been involved in Northeast wrestling since the 1930s. But but current trends are indicating that the McMahons could be looking at leaving wrestling, giving it maybe to a streaming company, a television conglomerate, and that worries a lot of old timers like me. But on the other side of the coin, when you look at it from a stock point of view, all indications show that we believe, as our group of investors, that the stock will go very high very quickly. The thing, what's holding it back, in our opinion, are these other macroeconomic factors.
In essence, Bidenomics.
Say that again?
Bidenomics, which is killing.
Right. The macroism of Bidenomics, in our investor opinion, is holding the stock actually back. Because again, in our opinion, all indications, and I should preface, please speak to any financial advisor before investing. Okay, that's a disclosure that should be out there right now. Or anyone thinking of investing should speak to a professional first. But in our opinion, we believe WWE stock has more upside than downside.
Right. It has been up to what, about 90 at one point, and
well, as I mentioned to you the other day, since January 1 to last Friday, the stock has done very well. The stock has done about 30%.
Okay. Well, as you saw for a moment, we're going to switch now to opening day at Yankee Stadium, which should have been yesterday, which was rained out, and they're playing the Red Sox today. And we have a new mayor who is no longer a Red Sox fan, but if you see, I have a Met jacket on because he's a New York Met fan. Okay, here is the New York Met jacket. Again, as I said, I'm a reporter. I just happened to be in the Met locker room one day and saw the general manager of the Mets and said, "Hey, what's that jacket over there? That's a nice looking Met jacket." And I was told, "You want it? Take it. We just fired our manager." Who was the manager? Buddy Harrelson. So this Met jacket was Buddy Harrelson's, and it fits me nice. So let's continue on, and I'll take it off and get back into regular topics. Now, Anthony, one thing I want to talk about, and is Jose back on? If we can bring our guest back on, if he's here. Is Jose back with us?
Yes,
Happy New
I'm
Year,
still here.
Jose.
Okay, now, New York City has to get 3 casinos. There's talk of putting one in Willets Point by Queens. Now, we have the Kingsbridge Armory, which is back to phase 1. Guys, what do you think of putting a casino in the Kingsbridge Armory? Because they have 5,000 seats that they can't take out. So that would make a great stands area, and you could add a couple of more 1,000 seats, have boxing matches, wrestling there, concerts, whatever. Then up above it, you could have a floor or 2 of a casino. Any ideas about that?
Well, Bob, let me just say, if I could just interject there for 1 second. Under this new proposed budget, remember that there's going to be a new panel that is going to be set up. It's going to be consisting of 6 members who will set a new panel that will, weigh in on whether new downstate casinos will be where they be located.
Right.
Okay. So there's going to be those particular 6 individuals will make a determination, and they'll look into whether what would be the best areas for the casinos. Some have discussed because they're the existing locations, the Empire State Casino over in Yonkers, and also the Queens location that was recently opened up, and that's mainly because of the licensing that they have already in place. Now, recent reports have shown that they were looking to have one on 5th Avenue, right in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral, which I'm sure the Archdiocese would have something to say about that. And also other locations.
Right. Times Square was mentioned.
I'm sorry, Bob?
Times Square was mentioned, and that was thrown down again. Because you might bring it back to what it was in the past.
Right. It remains to be seen. At this point, it would be interesting to find out, how this project is continuing along. Obviously, you know that a lot of business owners were displaced in that area. But it would be an interesting idea to bring that to the Bronx. In terms of economic development, it may bring a few jobs. However, the particular venue has to be considered in terms of a lot of the situations that would bring in as well. So
Anthony is shaking his head no, though. It has a 500.
Wait.
It has a 500.
Wait. I didn't shake my head no. Maybe
what do you think about the idea?
Maybe I should interpret what I was doing.
Okay.
Jose is technically correct as far as what he's pronouncing other people are, thinking of. I personally believe that their first target, as Jose indicated, is that they're going to go to their what's called racinos and turn them into full casinos. But the only reason why I was shaking my head was because when you guys were talking about the Kingsbridge Armory and one possible transformation, I all of a sudden in my mind thought of this little private area in the Kingsbridge Armory where you got online betting. I don't think they'll have a physical betting presence. I think they'll have an online betting presence. So all of a sudden in the back of my mind, I had this weird theory of them having a little private room in the Kingsbridge Armory having online betting, which is now legal.
They could. I mean, I'm sure that Yonkers may have it up in Yonkers Raceway. They were taking bets on other tracks, like from Jersey or whatever. So I don't see why that. But what do you think of the idea of a casino in the Kingsbridge Armory? Because
I'm going to go back to my original suggestion, and I'm going to ask Jose Padilla how he would feel about this using one example. Jose, I said to Robert, we should use part of that apparatus, the apparatus he's talking about, for different types of events and activities, even trying to make some of them political in nature. So I've been advocating for years, right? Maybe we should have a wrestling show full of political and media all-stars. So wouldn't you pay $5, $10 to say to say, for example, Bob Capstetler defending the Bronx media title versus Robert Press. Why wouldn't you pay $5 to go see that?
In terms of its entertainment value, it has an entertainment value. But there's
how would you feel about Assemblyman Jose Rivera and former Council Majority Leader Joel Rivera in a tag team match versus Eric and Jeffrey Dinowitz?
I think a lot of the political.
You wouldn't pay $5 to go see that.
It wouldn't be $5.
Probably worth a little bit more than $5. It has a good entertainment value. But in terms of, in all seriousness, and trying to get that particular, which is considered a valuable structure in the Bronx, and we've seen this because since 2009 we've been trying to get some kind of development there, and it's been on and off and stagnant. There could be a number of proposals.
1996.
Yeah. If you recall, it was a shelter prior to that, and also we had the National Guard that was, I believe, it still may be there as well. So
that's actually the only good thing that's happened in the Armory since 1996. A couple of weeks ago, the National Guard has indicated that that contract has not only been renewed, but the space for it has actually been expanded.
I remember going back to my younger days. When at that time that was also used as a New York State civil service exam taking facility. I remember taking the New York State trooper test a number of years back in that particular facility. So it has a lot of value. I think that there's a potential is there. The fact of the matter is that unfortunately we've had a lot of standstill. It's been standing still, and a lot of political and economic fight back. So, but it would be an asset to have this as a venue, definitely.
We're going to be breaking for we're at the half-hour mark already, and we'll be taking a break soon. I don't know when, because we started a few minutes late, so it could happen at any time. And after the break, I want to discuss our state budget. I gave the mayor's opinion of the state budget. We don't know if it will fully pass. We're hearing that some state senators are complaining about it, like Jessica Ramos and even Alessandra Biaggi.
Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, if how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved at Parrot TV with Financial Focus University. Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely convince you.
And welcome back to our show. Anthony, I like that commercial. I got to talk to Jose Rivera, because he said to me, about a year or two ago, "Hey, Bob, let's write a book together. From what you know and what I know, it could be a bestseller." So I got to see if Jose wants to write that book, and we'll give it to Dustin and publish it in-house. What do you think?
Well, I don't think Anthony can answer that question because
Oh, wow. What happened? Where did Anthony go?
Well, Anthony had to go to an income tax meeting, again, everybody get an extension because you're going to try to see your tax person now. Good luck. So Anthony had to go, and my name is Ninja Tony. Thank you for having me on the show. And what was your question? I'll try to answer it the best way I can, but in my Ninja Tony way. If you're not familiar with who Ninja Tony is, Ninja Tony has lived in the Bronx for 40 years. He's run various campaigns. He's run with various people. He's the announced candidate for the 80th Assembly District, as well as in other Bronx-related areas. But let's go back to your question. What was your question?
I don't remember. You shocked me. I don't remember it. We're going to talk about the state budget right now. I mean, I read at the beginning what Mayor, I almost said de Blasio by mistake. Mayor Adams has said, and what does everybody think of the state budget? I know it's $220 billion. They're still arguing about it. And I said the magic word that we went to the commercial, that several state senators are unhappy with this budget. Any opinions, guys?
Yeah, I mean, Bob, I think it would be fair to say that, just going back 1 second to Anthony's theatrics there, it would have been interesting had he pulled out a sword like Pedro Espada did years ago in a debate on Bronx Talk.
Right.
Just going back to the budget.
Would you like to give me 30 seconds?
I don't think you can top Pedro Espada in that.
I'll be right back.
I wonder what he's getting.
Bob, if we can, while we just continue while Anthony, goes and it gets his props. A little bit of discussion on the state budget. It's presently $8 billion more than last year's budget. It is now $4 more billion than it was proposed during Kathy Hochul's initial budget, and it's going to be about $220 billion. The breakdown is about $31.5 billion for school aid. Child care expansion is scheduled to see about $7 billion. There's going to be an environmental bond act of about $4.2 billion. And that bond act is scheduled to go to the voters in this November's election. $600 million has been set aside for support that's going to be authorized for the Bills Stadium, which I'm pretty sure that people up in Buffalo and Bills fanatics, Bills Mafia, will be happy to see. And there's going to be a 3 years of to-go alcohol drinks. Remembering that, Kathy Hochul, they kind of settled to the 3-year limit because she wanted it on a permanent basis. The Assembly also had some items that they wanted to, discuss aside from being included in the budget, which is that the mayoral control of the schools. Yeah.
How much did you say was the debt again?
Sorry?
How much did you say?
Well, it was the state budget that's proposed now. It's $220 billion. It's $8 billion.
No, that's not what I asked you. That's not what I asked you. I'm asking you a very simple question. You mentioned the debt proposal. How much was that?
The debt proposal?
Yeah, you said that there's going to be debt issued, right? Bond debt.
$4.5 billion, Anthony.
Then, and let's stop right there. Let's stop right there, because that's how this budget is getting paid, right? We can give money to health care. And let's be frank when we say health care. We're talking labor people on the line. They're getting paid in percentage increases more than the president of the United States. Whether it's worth it or not, that's subject to interpretation. But it's good to know that the health unions are locked in with the budget arrangement. right? It's also good that you're giving money to child care. It's also good that we're going to have a Buffalo Stadium. I thought Buffalo Stadium was private. I guess now it's going to be public now that all of your tax money is going into it. So, as a matter of fact, I didn't even hear any tax increases. If anything, I heard tax rebates, right? Rebates are tax deductions, not tax increases. So where's the money coming from? You know what this is, Bob? You know what this is? This is from my ECW partner, the Sandman. Remember the Sandman? Right? He hit you right over the head with this. And I'm very proud to say that this area right here is the blood of Cactus Jack. Okay? And I even have an autograph, which I'll share with, not share it with you at this time. But what it needs to happen is we need to go up there and knock some people in the head.
Well, Anthony, the thing is that there are several legislators who want to know, where did this Buffalo Stadium come from? And gee,
where did it come from? It's all, what are you talking about? Where did it come from?
I mean, where did all the money come from? And who does it benefit? Like, for instance, the governor's husband who works for the concessionaire. Okay, is she making a new stadium for her husband to have more sales? I mean,
no, Bob.
Isn't that a conflict of interest?
Bob, let me ask you a very important question. If you had the option of putting money into a McDonald's franchise or the food hamburger contract, which one would you take?
The burger contract.
Exactly. So let's not talk about a stadium. A stadium don't matter. It could be a stadium. It could be an H&R Block office. It don't matter. What matters is who's flipping the hamburgers. Because it's well known that 30 cents out of every dollar you spend at the stadium goes to the hamburger.
Well, and who, it's, I don't know. And like I said, this is the one time, or one of the few times, that I like some of the state senators who are complaining about it. All right. I mean, it's too bad that our state assembly speaker didn't have the guts to say anything. He's out there.
Bob, let me ask you a question. You say they're complaining. I don't know if they're complaining or not. Again, that's subject to interpretation. But one thing I have noticed with all this backdoor yelling, everybody's complaining about the spending. Nobody's talking about the revenue.
Right.
I'll ask again, where's the money coming from? Jose just gave you your answer. Thank you, Jose.
All right, let him talk.
As voters have to approve it in September.
Let
so what
Jose
does that?
talk.
I mean, in June. So what does that mean? I'm sorry, September. So what does that mean? That means get ready for 4 months of legislative brainwashing. That's what it means. Get the Sandman ready.
Ninja Tony, I think that one of the outcomes of this particular budget is that the gas tax is going to be suspended from June of this year until December, which will make a lot of middle class and working class people happy, and that's going to be in tune of about $585 million in suspended taxes.
Yeah, but Jose, it's 16 cents. Gas is $4.19 a gallon. What's it going to go down to? $4.13 and again not at 9/10, because they did that because when gas was 99.9, people will buy it. You make it $1 and people are going to say, "Oh, I ain't going to pay $1 for a gallon of gas." And again, now it would have to go down to $3.99.9 as opposed to $4, because people will say, "I ain't paying $4 for a gallon of gas," but you brainwashed them at $3.99.9. So,
well, I mean, in terms of what we're experiencing right now, they're probably lining up with Connecticut, who has suspended their gas tax, and most of the money is being utilized from the recovery money that's been issued by the federal government, as well as some of the money that has come in from, the taxes and low unemployment that's beginning supposedly to decrease.
Jose,
Now, under the
Jose,
budget,
I actually do agree with you. I think lowering the gasoline tax is, generally speaking, a good idea. However, if you heard me mentioning savings rates earlier, I think the gas tax is going to have the same effect on the consumer, but the other way around. Short-term interest rates have gone up over 100% in the last month, over 100%. So that means your 1% savings account, if you're getting one, right, should be at 2. It should be, right? Guess what? It's still at 1. So who's making the difference between 1 and 2? The banks. It'll be the same thing the other way around.
Right. What I want, while we have, hold on, and Jose, while we have the mayor on the picture there, okay, what is the state doing on bail reform? Very little, if anything. All right, we've seen.
Actually, that they came to a compromise in terms of bail reform, Bob. Bail reform was one of the key items that held up the budget. The Assembly wanted to maintain it as a standalone, item of discussion, but they came to an agreement and a compromise. So, under
what a compromise! What a compromise! We now give the judges discretion to make a decision, while on the next page, I can now take out my wingy dingy, piss it in your face, and now it's been decriminalized as a federal or state crime. So while you have the discretion, the law says I can walk out of jail free. What a compromise.
Well, Anthony, that law was changed by the city council, all right, a couple of years ago. All right, so you can take
absolutely. Now, in terms of the specific surrounding the plan, the judges will now be able to see whether an individual poses a danger to public safety, and they have a little bit more discretion in terms of giving bail. They'll be able to look at the seriousness of the crimes and whether those crimes were gun related. And these are, these amendments were made specifically because of the issues that we have with the ongoing gun crime, which has been rising, as we all know, here in New York City. And they also will be able to look at whether or not, there has been a violation or previous violation of an order of protection by the defendant. And certain gun crimes will be added also to the bail eligible offenses. They've also extended the Kendra's laws, 5-year extension. And now this was, remembering that they came to a compromise despite some of the, legislators who have been on the political left. They blocked a proposal that would have extended how judges could jail people pre-trial based on the past arrest record or perceived danger to the public. So, at the end of the day, it was a compromise, and it still remains to be seen how it's going to affect our current crisis in New York City. But it's a start. And the fact of the matter that there was a lot of opposition from advocacy groups and some legislators who did not want to go back to change the law in its entirety.
Some call it advocacy, some call it envelopes.
Right, and nobody's happy. All right, but you know why Kathy Hochul made these little switches? Because she's up for re-elect. Pardon me, she was never elected governor. She's up for election, Kathy Hochul. Okay, and Ninja Tony, why don't you tell us about her running mate, Brian Benjamin? Did she know that Brian Benjamin had problems with his finances?
Well, Robert, I don't know why you come to Ninja Tony for the answer like that. That sounds like you're not doing your reporter's job. Brian Benjamin's troubles have been well known in Harlem. As I've traveled through Harlem over the years, people in the street talk about Harlem and that situation. They even talk about the heroics of Jose Padilla down in Harlem. But so it's not like it's been quiet. It's not like it's been held under the rug. The Harlem residents have been complaining for years. Sadly, the Manhattan Democratic Party is strong enough to override their will.
Right.
Again, this was not a secret, but as a lonely state senator, if you can, like I always say, you can do whatever you want with in New York as far as politics. Once you get to that level of government, well, then little things like this that are 3-4 years old. So the only thing I will say in Brian Benjamin's defense, and I don't defend him at all, is that there is nothing new with these charges. Nothing at all.
And Kathy Hochul was the chair, basically, of the state Senate. She ran the meeting. She knew all about the senators. So how could she not know about Brian Benjamin's problems?
Well, Bob, I don't know this as a fact because Anthony RIVIECCIO isn't here. But if Ninja Tony remembers correctly, I think he said on our show at that time, over a year ago, when she picked Brian Benjamin, she should have picked Jamal Bailey just for that being one of the reasons that Brian Benjamin was already tainted.
Wow. All right, let's move on. And this is, I want to bring, go to a subject.
Bob, if I can, just as a note of fairness, you have to remember that there's, there have been reports that there was a disclosure failure by Brian Benjamin to provide certain information during his pre-screening process for the lieutenant governor's position. So, that's something that, in all fairness, has to be, discussed as well. And, we'll allow people, I guess, to make their own decisions based on, the facts that are presented.
Well, Jose, we have about 10 minutes left. I want you, I brought you on to talk about petitions. Now, Jose was at the Board of Elections till midnight last night, watching who was putting in their petitions. Can you give us a report on the petitions and who's running where?
Absolutely. Did you want to discuss just the candidates for the assembly seats and the state senate?
Well, state senate, you can only have one because the others go up to Albany since they cross county lines.
Yeah, well, actually, remember that.
What areas are we talking about? According to the judge's decision last night, I can run wherever I want.
Well, Tony, that's anywhere. That's always been appropriate on a redistricting year. You could run in Brooklyn, you could run in Queens.
So basically then, what Jose will give us, which I'm sure will be a thorough report, because Jose is very thorough, and Jose, I know you're going to be thorough, and I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, as of this moment in time, it's all bogus. But go ahead and give us the report.
Well, no, we still have a stay in place, and the judge supposedly after yesterday's hearing said that they could potentially make a decision, but it's still, there's oral argument scheduled for April 20th. So, that's still in the process. But anyway,
Benjamin, I truly want to thank you for this honor.
Or in layman's terms, he's waiting for the other advocacy envelope to hit him.
All right. Well, anyway, as the ledger states in the Board of Elections of the petitions that have been filed, and this is as of yesterday at about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, we have in the 13th congressional district, Congressman Espiat will be facing, it looks like, Francisco A. Spies, and also surprisingly, coming out of Brooklyn, Paperboy Love Prince, who had previously run for the mayor in the election cycle. Okay, in the 14th congressional district, your Ms. Cortez will not be facing a challenger until November. It looks like, unless someone filed petitions as of midnight last night. But she will have a Republican candidate facing her in November, which is Desi Joseph Cuellar.
Just one, or will there be a Republican primary for that seat?
No, it looks like so far as there's only one Republican candidate who had filed as of yesterday afternoon at 2. But there's a conservative member that'll be running in November, which will be Gary Rubin Richards in that particular race. Okay, in the 15th congressional district, interesting enough, Richie Torres. It looks like Paperboy Love Prince may have filed also petitions for the 15th congressional district. So he filed for the 13th and also the 15th. So it looks like depending on whether or not they'll challenge his petitions, it'll remain to be seen whether there'll be a race in that particular contest. All right. For the state senate.
The only one would be the 34th, which would be the Sepulveda seat.
Well, actually, the 34th and the 35th.
That's Gustavo. Everybody keeps forgetting Gustavo Rivera.
In the 34th, Louis Sepulveda, it looks like we'll be facing someone he has faced in the past, Pamela Stewart Martinez. Right. There were rumors that Mr. Perez was going to file petitions, and unless he has done so by midnight of last night, it looks like Sepulveda will just have Ms. Pamela Stewart Martinez if she were eligible or remain on the ballot.
What happened to Mr. Ian Harris? He didn't file unless he's going to file at midnight?
I'm sorry?
There was a Ian Harris mentioned as he was going to run against Sepulveda. He didn't file as of 2 p.m.?
As of 2 p.m., the ledger doesn't show him entering that contest or filing petitions. So there will be a possibility that if that was the case, he may have. We can do an update,
that's people can check my blog at 100%.blogspot.com. And so, is anybody challenging Gustavo Rivera? Is there a real candidate?
It looks like as of yesterday afternoon, Gustavo Rivera was the only one who had filed for the 35th. He was also nominated by the Working Families Party. So he will have the Working Families Party line in addition to the Democrats.
I'm sure Hasty will like that because the Bronx Democratic Party says you only run on the Democratic line. You don't need any other line. So I'm sure that's going to make Carl Hasty happy and Jamal Bailey happy. What's happening in the assembly seats? Okay.
Wait a minute. Let him go to the 36.
Yeah, the 36. It's partially in Westchester, so they probably filed
in Albany.
In Albany. We can look into that and we can give an update as we go along. In the civil court judges' races, interesting. There was a notice of noncompliance for one particular volume that they may have a pagination problem with. That includes your favorite candidate, Anthony Yahaira Gonzalez Taylor. Okay, and also Michelle Davila. And that volume number is 22-00348. So she should be receiving a notice to clarify that pagination.
And it's funny you mentioned that, Jose, because I got a call yesterday if I wanted to challenge a couple of county judges, and I turned it down. Okay, I'm waiting for Ninja Tony to make me an offer to challenge his opponents.
All right. Well, let's see if he makes you a reasonable offer, Bob. But just moving right along to the assembly, in the 77th, so far, Joyner doesn't look like she has a candidate.
That's nice.
But
that's good.
Unless they filed later on during the day, they had until midnight again as of last night.
Let's go to the good ones. Let's see the 78th. Go ahead.
78th Assembly District is going to have Jose Rivera, the incumbent, looks like is going to have a challenge from Emmanuel Martinez, who presently is the state committee member in that district, and also the chair of Board 7, and from George Alvarez, who had previously run in the 79th Assembly District as a candidate. Okay. In the And the 79th,
Wait a minute,
Chantel
wait a minute.
Jackson.
What about Shaniqua Moore in the 78th? Did she file?
As of yesterday afternoon in 2 p.m., it doesn't look like she had filed, unless apparently, as an insurgent, she may have. And if she did so, again, we'll follow up and
Okay.
we'll discuss that. Okay.
That's
She
Shaniqua
has
Charles,
been rumored-
not Shaniqua Moore. That's Shaniqua Charles.
Charles, pardon me.
Shaniqua Charles, that is correct. She has been rumored to be a candidate, but as of yesterday afternoon, it didn't show that petitions had been submitted.
Okay.
Okay.
79th is the incumbent facing a challenge?
As of yesterday, no. Chantel Jackson, it didn't look like anyone had filed. Neither did in the 80th for Natalia Fernandez on the Democratic side. Okay.
Natalia Fernandez? You mean Irene Estrada didn't file?
Well, again, Irene Estrada as the district leader, and she was not listed on the district leader summary as well on the ledger. So it very well may have been that if she is running, that potentially she may have filed after that 2 p.m. deadline yesterday.
And what about the Republican line? There was talk of a primary on the Republican side.
As of this ledger, nothing yet. But it did show that Felicity Nastasio
Yes.
is running in the 80th on the Conservative Party line in November.
What about the Republican line?
For the 80th, again, there was nothing that would show as of the ledger,
Okay.
as of 2 p.m. Okay.
Okay.
In the
81st.
the 81st, it looks like Jeffrey Dinowitz, the incumbent, will be facing George Diaz Jr. and Jessica Altagracia Wolford. So he has a challenge there.
There's only so much anti-Jeffrey Dinowitz vote.
Right, and Miss Wolford looks like has received the nomination also for the Working Families Party. If she should have 2 lines if she were to remain on the ballot, if she were to face a challenge upcoming. Okay.
Okay, what about the 82nd? Who's challenging Mike Benedetto?
The incumbent Mike Benedetto will be facing Jonathan W. Soto, and
Right, he's aligned with AOC. And who else?
Algamon Qualabom, who is also running as a district leader for the males in that 82nd.
Okay, we have just the 83rd and 84th. Is Carl Hasty facing a challenge in the 83rd?
So far as of yesterday, no. But in the 84th, Amanda Septimo looks like will be facing Alberto Torres if he were to remain on the ballot. If they file, they file general inspects upcoming.
Okay, well, where did Ninja Tony? Oh, looks like Ninja Tony left us. Is Anthony coming back? Nope.
Right
All
here.
right. Well, Ninja Tony can't talk about the show tonight because we're at the end of our show. I was hoping Anthony would be able to talk about Financial Focus, but I want to thank our guest, Jose Padilla Jr.
Jose, good job, Jose.
Run down on the assembly, on the voter, on the petitions. And by next week, we'll know, because now comes challenges. That's the second phase. And the last phase is the court cases. So, we should use some of these people.
Jose, will you be participating in any of those activities?
Am I?
No, Jose.
Fortunately, absolutely not this election cycle. I think there's enough stress going around between redistricting and everything else. So I've decided to stay away from this election cycle. But I just wanted to say and comment on this, particularly designating petitions and opportunity to ballot petition rules for primary elections that were adopted this February 15th of 2022. Interestingly enough, and this is I've been seeing this as I've been following the hearings, the cover sheet hearings in the last 2 days. There's a new subsection of Rule C2, which the cover sheet shall be signed by the candidate, and it also they have to have their printed signature under that
The first
that
name.
particular. Right.
Right.
So a lot of candidates in the last 2 days have fallen within that the violation. They shall be receiving non-compliance letters in the mail. Mr. Dion Powell should be getting a visit from the mailman as well, as he failed to do that in his petitions when he filed for his county committee.
Dion Powell made a mistake? Wow. I
Yeah.
wonder how many
So,
others did.
yeah, well, there's
Good job, Jose. Good job.
it looks like that this is a new rule that was adopted this February for this petition cycle. So, there are a number of individuals that will be receiving another William Moore and Elliot Quinones, who's running in the 85th Assembly District, will be receiving that letter as well. It looks like it just candidates have over the years have gotten used to the process, and for some reason, unfortunately, they may not read the new adopted policies every year. And it looks like this year
Okay.
they added that to that.
Unfortunately, we're out of time right now. I want to thank you for all your work, and hopefully we'll have Anthony back next week. And Mr. Producer, thank you. We've run over a little, and let's end the show right now, Mr. Producer. Thank you.
Always my pleasure, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jose.
As a summer institution, creating 30,000 additional jobs this year and carrying this forward into the future. We must also support our mothers and young families right from the start. This is why we're now providing annual funding to important programs that support moms and dads and future moms and infants. These include programs that coordinate maternity care for patients who need specialized medical care during pregnancy and extra support during those first few months of a baby's life. We will strengthen the neighborhoods hardest hit by the pandemic. Now, there's an annual funding for new family home visits. First-time moms will be connected with services to get regular caretaker visits that include household child safety